What in tarnation is going on in Chicago? I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points morning lineup for Thursday, September 21st, 2023. Now, any stats you hear in this program will be from Fantasy Points Data Suite, unless otherwise noted. The Data Suite is currently 75% off for the 2023 NFL season over at fantasypoints.com, and you can check it out with a free 7-day trial. You can also subscribe to any fantasy content package with code GURIFIC25 for a major discount. That's terrific minus the TE and plus the GU. Make sure you double that R. Now, at quarterback, Justin Fields is starting this week. But for how long? This tweet from Chicago Tribune beat writer Dan Wiederer summed up Wednesday rather well, I think. Quote, "This is season 11 for me. There are people here who have been on the beat much longer than I. There seems to be a consensus that this is an all-time day as far as Hallis Hall chaos, and no one seems to be able to locate a fire extinguisher." End quote. Now, let's start with the least impactful news. Left tackle Braxton Jones is now on injured reserve with a neck injury and will miss at least 4 games. Yes, that's the least impactful news from today. Let's go to Fields, the embattled third-year quarterback. In his Wednesday media availability, Fields said, quote, "I wasn't necessarily playing my game. I felt like I was kind of robotic, not playing like myself," end quote. He then said coaching was a reason for it. And from watching Fields this year, all those things are true. He kind of felt like he was getting overloaded with information. So true, in fact, that the Bears didn't want Fields to say them. While in the locker room later in the day, Fields called media over to his station and seemed to rescind his statement. Quote, "I can play better, point blank." That's also true. And this entire saga will be buried for at least a day because Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams resigned abruptly on Wednesday, citing health and family issues despite some less than savory and, as of now, completely unsubstantiated social media rumors.
What the hell?
Now, let's go back to Fields since his play and performance is part of the fantasy game we love so much. I think we're going to see a far different Bear offense this week than we did in the first 2 weeks of the season. The Bears have been way too pass heavy through 2 weeks, and Fields is in way over his head. That's evident if you watch the tape or, just listen to what Justin Fields said on Wednesday. But it is so clear that the Bears are not helping him either. Our team has charted Justin Fields with just 5 designed runs this year, on which he's gained a grand total of 1 yard. This is, in my mind, the most talented running quarterback since Michael Vick in terms of size and athleticism. He has 5 designed runs this year. Now, those 5 designed runs of the non-kneel down variety, which we also chart at Fantasy Points Data as a designed run, are tied for just 6th most in the NFL, while his 1 yard on designed runs is tied for 21st. It is absolutely coaching malpractice. And when the Bears eventually go all military academy, which they will, beginning this week, at least they should, that should help open holes for Khalil Herbert and Rashawn Johnson, the latter of whom is seeing his role increase and should be rostered in every league. Now, here's the way I see this whole thing. First of all, I would be absolutely floored beyond belief if Fields doesn't run the ball at least 10 times this week against the Chiefs. And if that's the case, he could play like crap and still produce for fantasy. Second of all, I think playing this game of who's to blame, Fields or the coaches, is probably futile. When a situation devolves into anything resembling the circus the Bears put on at Hallis Hall on Wednesday, the answer will eventually be everyone is to blame and everyone will lose his job.
Screw you! You're fired!
Fields might be benched. Offensive coordinator Luke Getsy might get fired. And they might even happen in different weeks or in a different order than I just laid out. But barring an absolutely spectacular turnaround, this train is eventually stopping at the same place, with the Bears looking for a new coach and the Bears looking for a new quarterback. At running back, the Browns brought in a familiar face. Cleveland announced it signed veteran running back Kareem Hunt to help assuage the devastating loss of Nick Chubb for the season, though coach Kevin Stefanski also mentioned that, quote, Jerome is the lead back. That, of course, is Jerome Ford, the second-year running back out of Cincinnati, who handled 20 opportunities in Week 2, which speaks to his incredible opportunity on the Browns. Now, they have a strong offensive line with 4 or 5 starters returning from 2022. Of course, Jack Conklin is injured. And with Deshaun Watson no longer being good at football, they'll need Ford to handle a ton of volume. He's ripped off several big plays in the NFL going back to last preseason, and he also busted off a 69-yard run against the Steelers in Week 2.
Nice.
Yes, I know Levi Wallace didn't contain on the backside. It was still a good run. Now, Ford isn't a stud, but he's likely good enough to post excellent fantasy digits given his large role, which is likely going to stay large all year. Now, that's even with Hunt added to the backfield. Anything is possible, but Hunt gives them really a solid power back who has some versatility, but he should consistently play behind the much more explosive Ford. And as you're watching this, I know Ford has already been picked up in every league. And if you're one of those folks who did spend all your fab budget on him, I'm telling you not to fret. Hunt can be rostered in most leagues, but it's possible he's washed. And those in deeper leagues, maybe the deepest of leagues, can also take a peek at Pierre Strong, who, remember, the Browns traded for in August when Hunt was still on the street. The Vikings are another team that added a back on Wednesday. According to Adam Schefter, the Rams traded the disgruntled Cam Akers to the Vikings in a swap of 2026 draft picks. Yes, 2026, which is basically the NFL equivalent of nothing. I don't even know if you can trade 2026 dynasty picks yet. Now, Akers knows the offense here. Kevin O'Connell was once his offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, and at times he's thrived after contact, which is good news because the Vikings offensive line allows a lot of it. Look, I don't think this is good news for Alexander Mattison by any stretch. Madison's been one of the least efficient running backs in football so far this year, but Akers turned 22 carries in Week 1 into 29 yards. The change of scenery could be good for Akers, and I think he's certainly worth a speculative stash in most formats in case he actually takes this job, but it's also possible that it's a gross committee with no one producing. Kyren Williams to the moon, by the way. Now, here are some injuries at running back to monitor this week. One guy who should be added speculatively is Saints rookie running back Kendrick Miller, if he's out there. He has missed the first 2 games of the season with a hamstring injury, but practiced in full on Wednesday. Miller will make his season debut this weekend, barring setback, and could well be the lead back in New Orleans, with Jamal Williams expected to miss time with a hamstring injury of his own. That might just last 1 week because Alvin Kamara is expected to come back from suspension in Week 4, but Kamara wasn't great as a runner last year, and there could be opportunity for Miller going forward. The Chargers' Austin Eckler didn't practice on Wednesday with the ankle injury that cost him last week's game against the Titans. Now, Eckler's backup, Joshua Kelly, flopped in a 39-yard performance in Week 2, but the Titans had the best run defense in the NFL last year, and it's looking pretty damn good again this year. And Los Angeles also had a lot of success attacking the Titans' secondary. The Vikings, this week's opponent for the Chargers, held Rachaad White and the Buccaneers' run game in check in Week 1, but ran into a dose of reality in Week 2 when the Eagles' elite offensive line absolutely pounded them into submission, with Philadelphia's DeAndre Swift running for a career-high 175 yards and a touchdown. This could be a bounce-back spot for Kelly if he has to go. Now, speaking of Rachaad White, he gets that tough matchup with Philly this week, but won't have to contend with snaps from fellow Bucs Chase Edmonds, who was placed on IR with a knee injury. The Chiefs' Isaiah Pacheco didn't practice on Wednesday with a hamstring injury. The Ravens' Justice Hill could miss this week with turf toe. And on Thursday night, the Giants' Saquon Barkley is out with the ankle injury he suffered last week. I wish I could get pumped for Matt Breida, destiny is all, against the 49ers defense, but no, I can't. With Andrew Thomas and Ben Bredeson out, the entire left side of their offensive line, and a potential role for Gary Brightwell and or Eric Gray, no thanks on Matt Breida unless I am absolutely desperate in a 14-team league. And at wide receiver, we have another situation to monitor on Thursday. The 49ers' Brandon Ayuk is a game-time decision with a shoulder injury. Our Dr. Edwin Porras is skeptical he can be productive on a quick turnaround even if he plays, so I'd consider him a volatile wide receiver 3 if he goes against the Giants. We also have a couple of injuries to monitor at receiver in Miami, where Jalen Waddle is in concussion protocol and Tyreek Hill was limited with an ankle injury in practice on Wednesday. I'm not at all worried about Hill. Waddle, obviously, we're going to have to follow the practice reports throughout the week. It's a tough matchup, at least for Hill, with Patrick Surtain this weekend. And the Lions' Amon-Ra St. Brown also didn't practice Wednesday, and like Justice Hill, could be dealing with turf toe, though he played through it and produced in Week 2. Thanks for joining me for a Thursday edition of the Fantasy Points Morning Lineup. Now, remember to subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. Smash the like button. I mean, I want you to go like, really? Pound that thing. And comment if you enjoyed this video. And you can catch me over at fantasypoints.com, use code GURIFIC25, and join me in our subscriber Discord, where I will interact and the rest of our staff will interact and answer questions and just chat about football. We also had a very interesting discussion about bologna sandwiches. I like the Lebanon bologna. I'm from Pennsylvania. I like the Lebanon bologna, not the fake-looking pink stuff. No thanks on that. Catch you on Saturday for more injury updates and maybe more deli meat talk.